Let us take a journey through time. This is early Old Forge, Pennsylvania. The first person to pass through Old Forge was Arnold Viel, a Dutch trader in 1692. Count Zinzendorf, a Moravian missionary, declared that the uninhabited area was to be designated as St. Anthony's Wilderness. 20 years later, the first white settlers came to the area. Zebulon Marcy built the first log cabin in Old Forge in the year 1770. 1 year later, he was followed by Barnabas Carey, who built the first dwelling. In 1774, grist mills were constructed in Old Forge. 4 years later, the Battle of Wyoming dispelled all Old Forge settlers for 3 months. 2 years later, in 1780, Cornelius Atherton established a farm and a blacksmith shop in Old Forge. In the same year, Solomon Finn and Eliphaz Stevens constructed a sawmill. Luzerne County was officially formed in 1786, in which Draketown, or the Gore, was a part of. Although these were the original names, the name Old Forge comes from a forge built by Dr. William Hooker Smith and James Sutton in the year 1789. A new forge was constructed in Scranton at Slocum Hollow in the year 1800. This caused Smith and Sutton's forge to be called the Old Forge. So on May 26, 1871, Old Forge was designated a township. Lackawanna County formed in 1878, and on May 2, 1899, Old Forge Borough, as it exists today, was incorporated. Old Forge is best known as an Italian borough. Approximately 4 million Italians came to the United States between 1891 and 1920, but Italians have come to Old Forge as early as 1885. They came from Perugia, Calabria, Sicily, the Marches, and Salerno. The major draw to Old Forge region was the booming anthracite coal industry. Italian men worked as miners, and many of their wives worked in the garment industry. Italians were mostly Catholic, and St. Mary's, the second oldest Italian Catholic church in the Diocese of Scranton, was erected in 1897. St. Mary's Parish burned in 1951, but it was reconstructed and still stands today. Before St. Mary's, St. Thomas College, now the University of Scranton, once used its basement as an Italian mission in 1892 before the construction of St. Mary's. Many Italians in Old Forge come from a small town in Salerno, Italy called Filito. It is a small town in southwest Italy. Here you can see the town's trademark bridge. In order to preserve their heritage, immigrants from Filito organized the Felites Association of Old Forge. They hold an annual festival, which was forgotten after World War II and later revived in 1996. It is held on the second weekend of September of each year. The festival is celebrated at a small chapel in Old Forge that honors Our Lady of Constantinople, who has been venerated in Filito since 1790. The festival is kicked off by a parade. Attendees can try various ethnic foods such as gnocchi, tripe, sofrito, porchetta, sausage and peppers, cavatelli and broccoli, pizza fritta, and assorted Italian desserts and pastries. Live music entertainment is also provided. On the Sunday of the festival, a procession carrying a statue of Our Lady of Constantinople is held, followed by a mass.
That's an organization where they have like an Italian picnic every year. It's usually around, if I'm not mistaken, around Labor Day, usually the week after the Italian Festival in Scranton. It's just a great group of guys and that meet all the time to get that going. They serve delicious food.
The Italians of Old Forge quickly rose in the town. They succeeded academically and athletically at Old Forge High School, which was built in 1896. The high school was rebuilt in 1910. Louis Babe Tomasetti and Charles Chuck Cherundolo went on to be professional football players. Another Italian-American of Old Forge, Joe Amato, became a successful dragster driver who won the NHRA Top Fuel Championship 5 times. He scored 52 event victories and was the first driver to exceed 280 miles per hour in competition. Louis Joseph Eugene Carpellati was a World War II hero who made the supreme sacrifice in order to allow his squad to complete their mission. Private Carpellati was awarded the Silver Star, and the USS Carpellati, nicknamed the Carpo, was named after him. He is the only person in Lackawanna County after whom a ship was named. There is a memorial that displays the USS Carpellati's anchor at Old Forge's Town Hall. Although Old Forge has a rich history, it is most famous as the pizza capital of the world. The pizza in Old Forge is square, not round. You order a tray, not a pie. You order cuts, not slices. It is either red or white. Old Forge's restaurant business dates back to the early 1900s. Bruticos, Salerno's, Arcaro and Janelle, Ravello's, Agostini's, Cafe Rinaldi, Gigerelli's are just a few of the many Italian restaurants in Old Forge. Old Forge pizza can be found across the country in places as far as Colorado and California. Old Forge Pizza Express is a new chain that is quickly spreading across the valley.
Most of these restaurants on the block here are closing in on probably 100 years that they've been here.
I think the people that own the establishments in Old Forge, I think they take a lot of pride in the product they put out, and if there's like 20-some pizza places in Old Forge, like most of them, I grew up with the owners and the kids of all the other ones. Like there's at least 10 or 12 of us that actually live above our pizza places. And that's where we were born, and that's where we were raised up, and you always had the pizza place below you. And I know that's the way it was with Mark and Angelo, and Baby Joe and Mike Lettieri over at Salerno's, and Vito, and Gigerelli's and Lettieri's. Everybody lived above their pizza places, and and you just don't see that family mom and pop businesses anymore. And I think people take that into consideration when they're coming through Old Forge. That hey, they've been around a long time, and these are families running this, no corporations, and it's really hands-on. Like everything is fresh. We don't get nothing in plastic bags and heat it up or anything. This is all fresh, and like the owners of these pizza places really take pride in what they're doing, and to keep their heritage and their fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers. Recipes still going the way it used to be, and I think that's a plus in it. And I just think it's a different product. You could go any city in the United States and order pizza, and it always comes out round. But in Old Forge, they just have that 11 by 17 tray of pizza, and it's not a piece, it's a cut, and it's not a pie, it's a tray, and we just try to keep that going. And I think everybody's happy with our little town.
They're all with the same names. Some have slightly different ownership, some have slightly different names, but Gigerelli's have been here for a long time. Bruticos have been here for a long time. Salerno's probably over 100 years they've been here in Old Forge.
People that live here and moved to other places say that there are no other good restaurants out of this area, out of this state. There's local chains, but these are all little family-owned businesses that were here for many, many years, and naturally they're good. The immigrants settled here, and they brought with them all their recipes and all their customs and traditions, and it really worked really well.
my grandfather, Anthony Rivello, came from Italy. He married my grandmother, Mary Walsh Rivello, and she was from Ireland. So you're talking an Italian and an Irish girl then, and from what I hear, that didn't happen much. But my grandfather, he was in the coal mining business along with my father and his brothers, and also like a junkyard business. In 1967, my mother and father, Dolores and Joseph, started Rivello's Pizza in Old Forge.
So my mother was an Arcaro, and my father was a Janelle. We started in 1962, a little smaller than we are now, but followed a lot of what Lorenzi's did before we got here.
Started off in 1967, and before that it was called a pizza place called Pelusi's, which my parents purchased this building and like the apartments upstairs from Pelusi's, and changed the name to Rivello's Pizza, and again that was in 1967. I know, like Julia's Hotel, that started, I think it's in like 1914 was here, Old Forge Hotel. Salerno's has been around since I think like 1920.
We started around 1907 by my great-grandfather Santo. Not at this location, it was in another location not far from here, right down by the river. It was basically a little shack. They just baked loaves of bread for the local people, for the people around down the street, pretty much. And I think around the early 20s they moved to this location. They built a small bakery, and we've been adding on. They added. Well, it was a house here. This was their home. They built a home, and they added a small bakery to this, and which pretty much you see right to this present day.
Well, the size of the tray, it's like 11 by 17. From what I heard, those are the size pans that were available at the time, and just recently in the last year or so, those pans are not available anymore. So whatever pans you have that are 11 by 17, that are like the Old Forge pizza pans, are not made anymore. So whatever you have now, they better last you a long time. But I think those were the size pans that were readily available, and the size boxes they made to accommodate the pizza from around pans.
We make our own dough. Some people buy their dough from a bakery in town, Agostini's, that made it for, they're probably 100 years plus they've been doing it. The dough is light, it's airy, but it's still thick, but it's not heavy. And the dough is definitely what makes the pizza different. Everybody's ingredients are a little different, their cheeses are a little different, but usually the dough is pretty consistent, whether you make it yourself or you buy it.
We also have a white pizza, which is a double crusted. You put the dough on the bottom, you fill it up with cheese, and you fold the dough over the top, and you season that, bake that, and that's called a white pizza, I guess because there's no sauce on it. And that's probably about 20% of the pizza that goes out is white, 80% is red.
The legend of Old Forge Pizza is very uncertain, but Gigerelli's Pizzeria has a place in most of the tales.
The legend of Old Forge Pizza started with a gentleman playing bocce after they came out of the mines. Mrs. Gigerelli at Gigerelli's Pizza right down the road from us kind of started making pizza. And Mrs. Lorenzi here from bread that they used to make. And the gentleman used to take it home, and at that time was called like clothing boxes, wrapped in newspaper. And that's how they used to take them home after playing bocce. They played bocce on the street here. For Mrs. Lorenzi, that was the previous owner of Arcaro and Janelle's before 1962, and Gigerelli's, which are still one block down the road.
As far as the pizza itself, I think it goes back to about like the 40s or 50s, where Old Forge Pizza was invented by Mrs. Gigerelli, making some like chow or some food for hungry card players playing cards, and she put some tomato sauce on some bread and some cheese, and that's how she came up with Old Forge Pizza, and it just caught on around here, and the rest is history.
Every pizza place in Old Forge either got their start with our dough or still uses it. Most do. A few make their own now, which I don't think is good, but I leave that up to other people to decide that. But for the most part, it all started back the GIs returning back from the Second World War. They found that they had their first taste of pizza in Italy when they landed in Italy during the Second World War, and they liked it and they learned how to make it, and they brought back that's how it started right after the Second World War. They brought back the pizza. Nobody really heard of pizza until then, except for small little Italian families, which would always have made it, but for the most part, people didn't know what pizza was in the region, or in the United States for that matter. And that's when it all started, pretty much in the late 30s and early 40s, 45, in the Second World War.
We do eat good. When Sunday is like pasta day in Old Forge, and Friday night is like football games and pizza. And there's a lot of traditions that go on in this town, and it's a great place to live. It's a great school district, and there's a lot of great people that make up this town. That it makes us very proud to live here and to have our restaurant in this town.
Well, we're
Legacy.
here. We're here 103 years at this location, or from this other location. But I see us being here as long as the economy will permit us to, and as long as people keep eating pizza, which I think will be quite a while.